Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today's pick a card reading, we're going to have a look at what do other people see in you that possibly they're not telling you. And this could be for good reasons or for challenging reasons. So I'm going to hope that Spirit, and this is part of the intention, is primarily looking at the positive. But if there's anything that you need to be aware of also that where you could be misinterpreted, to bring that up so that you can see it and reflect upon it. And I use the word reflect advisedly because the inspiration for doing the reading came from a deck I recently purchased called the Tarot of the Holy Spectrum, and I got what was called the Infinity version. I just want to show you quickly the backs, and there you can see my camera. The backs of the deck are actually a mirror, and I thought sometimes what people see in us is actually says something about what's in them. Sometimes it's what draws us to people and what draws people to us. That is a kind of reflective sort of energy, a kind of a spiritual and psychological dance. So I just thought it sort of like made me think about, that kind of thing of accuracy and illusion, both in the way we perceive ourselves and how we think we're perceived, and also in the way that others perceive us. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. We're going to look at things that you would be clear about and wouldn't be surprised that people thought, but also things that you might be surprised, and how to use that best for the best relationships that you can have and for your highest good and the highest good of others. So that's basically the idea of the reading. As always, I will put down the numbers. There's 3 piles to choose from. You, of course, can go to more than one if you feel drawn to more than one. Obviously do that. There might be quite a complex set of variables here that's worth looking at across a number of readings. But to help with it, we're going to start to set the scene with an overarching theme and some elements that you would not be surprised, as I say, and ones that you might be a bit surprised before we get into the tarot. And part of that will be this card. So I shuffled the Divine Circus Oracle and I asked Spirit for a card to represent part of that theme for each of the piles. So for pile number 1, we have the Velvet Queen. For pile number 2, the Duke of Shadows. And for pile number 3, Tiger Angel. So you may feel particularly drawn to one of those images or concepts. Whatever works for you, as I say, go to more than one if you want. When you know what reading or readings you want to go to, as always, I've got the timestamps in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So you've come to the reading with the Velvet Queen, and so the theme of that is interesting. There's a couple of things that could be happening here. I think one is the predominant one, given the other energies, because here I have some energies that you wouldn't be surprised that people thought, even if they're not telling you, and ones that you might be surprised about, but they're not telling you. And I think the dominant theme here, which is what I'm going to talk about first, fits those best, but I'm also going to mention the other sort of side of this card. This is all about the surrender that brings manifestation. The Velvet Queen is all about something, a prize that is worth attaining. So certainly there could be some energy here about people see you as very aspirational, or, if somebody's in love with you, somebody that they really want to have a relationship with, definitely. But it's all about understanding the flow of self-worth and allowing things to develop and kind of letting go, surrendering to bring in what you want. So I think that many people see you as a bit of an embodiment of what people tend to talk about when they talk about the law of attraction. But I think this is at a slightly deeper level. How many people will see it at the deeper level around you, I don't know. It depends how spiritually interested maybe that people are. But this is very much that sort of sense of it is time for achievement, and you have brought it about through your following your life path and through surrendering and through trusting and through gratitude and all of those sorts of things. And it might surprise you to know that people see you on that level. Because I think, you may sort of think you are kind of going through a lot in terms of change and development and all that kind of thing. It's part of the process, and it's always a constant discipline. They definitely see you as disciplined in that way, not sort of somebody who blames others for what could occur or who thinks everything is about luck. You understand surrender is not about luck. It's about going with the flow, and people do see that in you. But I think they're probably a little bit intimidated by you as well. They're sort of in awe or intimidated. Some may see you, and if they're very close to you, they may see you as dealing with major change. This is the other side of it, that because there is a side of this card that could be where you need to be able to let things occur, and a lot is happening and subject to that and needing to build self-esteem. So some very close to you may see the workings under what appears to be the magic that you have that other people see. But I do think predominantly People see you as a person of success, a person of manifestation, and those sort of things, and somebody who achieves what is prized because you surrender to in a sense, divine will for what is prized. And as I say, if it is somebody who's close to you, who sort of sees you also dealing with it, like if they see almost the mechanics behind it, then they're closer to you, and so I think they see something a bit clearer on that level. But nevertheless, I think there's a lot of admiration. So that's the first thing. Now, what probably wouldn't surprise you with Capricorn here, I think that most of you, if you've come to the right reading, you're very good at manifesting in the material world. You're probably people who, if you haven't already created a very strong career, business, sort of monetary basis, you're going to. You have that kind of realism and the sort of material sort of ambition and dedication and patience and so forth that is necessary. You're really, really good in anything in the world to do with the powers of the world, the sort of structures and the resources and so forth. And you bring a lot of knowledge and learning with Sapphire here. It is an amalgamation of, I would say, many of you may be very well educated. If you haven't already created this world, then you're studying or something like that for it. You really are looking in that direction. But there's also with Sapphire here a sense, I think, of an alignment of your spiritual side with what you want to do materially, and you understand the connections. You are very learned in one or more ways, and so people thinking that of you and seeing you as someone who can apply learning and understanding to get material outcomes would not surprise you. And people do think this. They're not necessarily telling you, but people are thinking that. But if they did tell you on a lie detector test, you wouldn't be surprised. You also wouldn't be surprised that they see you as vital and action-oriented and on your life path. Okay, think that many people around you think that you are very self-actualized. You're someone who really knows who they are. And I think if that was told to you, you wouldn't be so surprised about that. What you might be surprised that people are seeing is that they also see you as transformative. In fact, it's not an opposite energy here. It's not like Capricorn and Pluto are opposite, but Pluto is all about transformation, the phoenix rising from the ashes, as you can sort of see in that picture, or in this case, rising from the ground. But in any case, there's a sense here of the new, the sort of tumultuous, the change, the transformative energy. So people see that in you, they see both, and you might be surprised to know that. I think you think most people see you as what you've achieved in the world or what you're aiming to achieve, and that the fact that you could actually do it. They also see you as incredibly focused in a storm, and that you use a creative energy and the sacred feminine. I think you would think most people see you as very business oriented and very much what people would think divine masculine. But what might surprise you is people see a creative energy you bring to this. And I think that's the magic of what you have. I think this is the magic of you being able to understand the system that you're in and go with the flow, but also surrender to the creative and focus in times of change. I think that you may feel that what you achieve would make you someone that people might aspire to and want to sort of like have a similar sort of status and success. What you don't know is that people also see you the person to go to, the calm in the storm, the person who can actually help them transform and focus and find creative problem solving. So they're not telling you this, I think, possibly not out of ill meaning, but I think they're not telling you because it is a little bit intimidating and a little bit awe-inspiring. But they would also maybe think that you would know. I think they think you know. This sort of learning and this creative consciousness and so forth and your capacity to focus. They think that you already know. Now, as I say, people who are closest to you who may, as I say, almost see behind, it's not a facade because you absolutely are this, but behind the simple sort of like frontal area of that where you're just able to do this, I think are seeing some change going on in your life at the moment. And they're maybe not talking to you about it because they think you need to raise it with them. There's a great deal of respect here. So it's very, very positive, I think, how people see you. But as I say, the one thing, though, I do feel around this, and it'll be interesting to see what we get with the cards, is it looks very business problem-solving oriented. And in fact, when you're in this flow, there's also the heart, and creativity is the heart. So it's kind of there, but it looks like you're very aspirational, more around the powers of the world, changes in the world, and being able to manifest and so forth. So it'll be interesting to see what we get in terms of the sort of interplay of different elements with the tarot. So that's what we're going to move to now. We're going to first of all say what of what people are saying and not saying to you would you agree with? Seven of Wands reversed, the Hierophant reversed, the Queen of Wands, the Wheel of Fortune reversed, the Empress reversed. Now this is interesting because I actually think what this is saying, underneath, you would agree more with this side. You wouldn't be surprised if people saw you as this aspirational person who is very good materially, but I think there's a lot going on in your life at the moment. As I say, I feel like there's an element of this for some of you where somebody close to you sees this side more, but they're not talking about it because they sort of trust your instincts. But I think you would agree that something is shifting in how you interact with the world, spiritually and otherwise, that you are capable of doing it. There's no doubt that you're capable of doing it. You're self-actualized, but something is happening that was almost a reversal of fortune, and you are reconnecting with your divine feminine. Because I feel like this is saying with the Queen of Wands, ultimately you have it. Ultimately there's a great balance between the sort of divine masculine and divine feminine elements, and you are able to self-actualize. But something is happening in your life at the moment that is transformative. Could be a relationship, it could be a career thing, could be anything really, but it's making you reconnect your understanding that you had actually focused so much maybe on the divine masculine side of things that you were shortchanging yourself. And the next courageous thing, the next thing to surrender into is the creativity and to focus on the transformation, allowing that so that you can turn the wheel towards you. You would agree with those that are saying that there is some risk almost to some of what you've created or what you want to create. Not that you're more than capable of doing it, and I think you would agree with that, but you are not someone who hides away and pretends everything's fine. So this is why I'm saying you're quite nuanced with law of attraction. You're not sort of someone who just thinks I just have to sit and think high vibe thoughts and everything is going to be fine. You do understand the system that you're in. You do understand the impetus towards change, and you do understand that things are not always, the wheel is going to turn, and sometimes it's going to turn in your favor and sometimes it isn't. The thing that makes you strong, the thing that makes you the Queen of Wands, is that you start to look at that and understand it and surrender to it. So you are at this point looking at how you surrender to the divine feminine, how you have the courage to do that so that you can actually move forward. So you would agree with those who are looking at this side of things, who see the change that is going on and how you're dealing with it. So let's ask, what would surprise you that people thought? I've just dropped the card, so I'm just going to pause the video to pick up the card. These beautiful cards, but they're a bit slippery. So, okay, what would surprise you that people see and they're not telling you? Page of Pentacles reversed. Ten of Cups. The Star. King of Swords reversed. Page of Wands. Okay, all right. So, for a start, as I said, I wasn't seeing a lot of like heart, and that didn't mean you didn't have heart, but people do see heart in you, an enormous amount of heart. I think you don't think people are seeing you that way, but in fact they do see that. So with the Ten of Cups, there is a real sense of heart, caring, love, wanting to have your sort of spiritual and sort of like social, political, whatever it is, sort of group, family, tribe around you, definitely, and that you are more interested in that than in fact, you're happy to be different and transformative to create that rather than to just fit in. So it might surprise you. You might think that people think because you're good at understanding the systems you're dealing with that you are actually hostage to it. But people don't think that, and that would surprise you. They also, interestingly, they think that this is very natural to you, that you're not actually sitting and planning it. And therefore, they do think sometimes you're going to sort of come across the surprising, reversal with the Wheel of Fortune and people who maybe are not as honourable as you. So they feel that it's something natural to you that you do this. And so it's almost effortless and you're not doing the kind of material planning. And as such, when you come across people who can't be trusted and who are doing that and who won't do commitment, you may not see it because your heart is really big. And because part of who you are is this aspirational person who is heading towards their life path and so forth. And they also think you're far more creative than you think you are. Like they think you're able to manifest really well almost in the business world, the material world, but in actual fact it's because you're creative. And your Achilles heel in all of this is because you're so open-hearted and big-hearted, that you may sometimes get beguiled or something like that from people who are more traditional and more tricky around this. So the sort of side of the Capricornian thing, which is not to say that Capricorns are like this. I don't want any Capricorns to get upset and think I'm saying this, but Capricorn is about the powers of the world and all of that kind of thing, and then the material things of the world. And that can attract certain types of people. And it looks to me like sometimes people feel you're so big-hearted that you may miss that occurring. They do think you're able to sort of create the solutions out of it, but I think they sometimes think that there's a very gentle heart underneath this. I think you would be surprised how much they see that you are of the heart, in fact. But they still think you're amazing at what you're actually achieving. So why aren't they telling you this? We're just going to pull 3 cards just to see why are these things that are there, why aren't they talking to you about it? Knight of Swords reversed. 8 of Swords. The Sun. Okay. All right. You are a little bit intimidating, and I don't think, I mean, they see you as having great heart, so it's not that they think you're scary on that level, but I do think they think you know what you're doing. So it's kind of like they wouldn't even want to say. They think, you will know, you don't need that sort of guidance or whatever. They see that you know what you're doing, number one. So even if they feel sometimes you're so big-hearted that you get people kind of doing a number on you, they absolutely think you can write that, so it's not a problem. The other thing is, I think that they almost don't want to discuss with you how you do it. They feel as though to do that, to have a discussion, to bring this up to the surface, might restrict it and limit it in some way. I think they think there's something a bit magical about you. So if it's discussed, it kind of like limits it, and it makes it more conservative. It makes it more kind of just the way of the world rather than this transformative energy. So they don't want to limit you. So I think this is all very good. There's not a sort of sense of they're not telling you because they think that, you're Machiavelli or something like that. They see you as very, very open-hearted and very natural at this, and they don't want to get in the way. That's basically the energy. So let's have a look at some other personality aspects. I want to use the two-penny oracle, which it's based on phrenology, which was the ancient sort of divination and character assessment art of bumps on the head. But what this deck has different personality characteristics that can work both positively and negatively. So I'm just going to pull 3 others that are aspects they see that maybe you're not aware of, and looking at what could be positive and what could also be challenging in their view of you and your view of yourself in relation to those personality aspects. So we get no. Yeah, there's a lot about knowledge. They do think you know. This is the thing. They're not going to argue with you. They don't even think they could win an argument. And it's not that you mean to make them feel that way. Stinks and so forth. So there's a real sense that you know, so they don't need to talk about it. Or even they think you know what they... Second aspect, self-esteem. So yeah, they see you as the Queen of Wands. They see you as having that dignity, that self-esteem and so forth. There is always a risk with self-esteem that some could start to see it as egotism or arrogance. I don't think that's showing up here particularly. If the cups hadn't turned up, and if there wasn't a sense that some of them feel that your heart sometimes leads you towards people who are less admirable and ethical and honourable as you, then there would be potentially a risk of that, because people can sometimes think, oh, I'm master of the universe, like create what they want and kind of like come in and make everything else tumultuous. But that's not the energy overall. I think they see you as very dignified, but it is something that is worth being aware of, that kind of, if something went wrong in a relationship, the very thing that they started to admire, which is your kind of very well calibrated self-esteem, they could see it as something else. And time. Okay, they think you have amazing timing, I would say. Synchronicity. I think they think you're magical, as I've said before. They do see you as being in a bit of a hurry with urgency. And again, it's a bit like with the self-esteem. If people feel railroaded by the energy and power that you have, they might start to think that you push and it's too much. But I think always that 10 of Cups is calibrating that. But yeah, I think they think that you're really in tune with the mechanics of the universe. Therefore, you can build and you can also change, and you can build and change. And I think you think they mainly think this, but they're seeing this as well too. It's bigger than that. People see you as bigger than that. So that's very positive again. So that's good. I was hoping that Spirit would do positive here. But as I say, there is a little bit of a warning there. Sometimes when someone is very successful and a go-getter, it can attract jealousy. So you could sometimes attract jealousy where what is a healthy self-esteem is actually seen as arrogance. Okay, let's see what Spirit has to say with the Soul Helper Oracle. So 3 pieces of advice to go with the three additional personality aspects we're looking at. So around intuition and what you know and how people see you as just knowing things. You can cast a spell with your existence. Magic flows brightly and radiantly within you. Yeah, I do. I think they think you're quite magical. I think they think you've got it worked out. Now, that doesn't mean that you personally sit there and think you've got it all worked out, but you've got it more worked out than most people, and people see that. So around the self-esteem, where there is, as I say, by and large, I think it's working well, but there's always that kind of risk of people resenting success. What does Spirit have to say about that? Nature is calling you. It wants to touch, fulfill, and protect you with its healing powers. Okay, so if you are feeling that you are being misunderstood on that kind of level or misrepresented, getting back to nature. And look, I think it's a double message too. I think it's saying it's not going to happen for the most part because your nature, which I think really goes to that 10 of Cups, has a softness to it and a natural sort of flow, and people see you on your life path. I think most of the time this is not going to happen. But if you do feel something like that, then getting into nature would be helpful. And getting into the heart, I think, it's the heart. You really have a lovely heart. So focusing on that. And around time, your sense of timing, Spirit says, the time of guilt and shame ends now. Forgive yourself and begin to love yourself just as you are. So for some of you, whatever this change is, because it was showing this, it might have rocked you quite a bit, and you might have, that people may have seen you being done over by someone, a faithless lover or a difficult person at work, something like that. You are going to come back strong, but this, you understand the timing of this, and you're kind of going to get back on path. So this says, don't dwell in that sort of thing. Everything is aligning for you to move forward, and people see that. People see that and they admire it. Let's get you some additional star energy or numerology energy to guide you. We'll just get a couple of cards for that. Cancer, yeah, protective. This is the heart, and this is that 10 of Cups. You, underneath all of this, people feel that you look after and protect others. They feel you come from this really good heart center. So I think, and I think those that have seen you done over on whatever level this is, they don't see it as affecting how amazing they think you are, but they are really protective about that. So allow yourself to be protected sometimes, I think, would be the message, pile 1. And Pluto again, you are really transformative and really able to deal with transformative stuff. You may be strongly scorpionic with Pluto coming up twice. You don't have to be. Definitely strongly water-based. This is what's interesting, actually, because that 10 of Cups, I feel like that 10 of Cups is the core thing of you, and those closest to you see it, and they've also seen something where something unfair has happened to you, but how much with dignity and self-esteem you're coming back fighting, and how you can transform and transmute all that energy. I think they really, really admire it, but there's a very strong core of water in you. But people do generally see you as materially in the world and able to kind of create within the world. But at the core, there is a heart, and people see that. Okay, so to just finish off, I'm just going to pull an archetype card, and this is just anything else that Spirit wants to say about how to bring all this, how people are seeing you, even if they're not telling you, how you can bring it all together in an archetypal way to most benefit from this view and most develop in whatever way it's going to be for your highest good and the highest good of those that you care about. And you've got the river. Just go with the flow. You're on a journey. Okay. So that also makes sense because you do think, and you wouldn't be surprised, even though people aren't necessarily saying that people see you very materially in the world, but you are also about change. You're on a journey. And like the sun coming up twice, again, your life path, you're very clear on that. So this is all about considering this as a journey, moving through it and going with the flow. It's part of the genius of what you have. It's why the Velvet Queen was there. It's why you can manifest, because you see yourself moving through time. You have the knowledge to do that and the self-esteem to do that. So always thinking about, I think it was Marcus Aurelius. He was famous for saying, this too shall pass. That's the energy. If there has been something difficult that you've dealt with, and if you're reconnecting with the divine feminine as a result to heal your heart, heal the heart of others, move forward again, this too shall pass. You're moving into a much better, timing, and your own ability that people see, even if they're not telling you, that is really taking you where you need to go. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 1. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the Duke of Shadows. And here we have things that people think and see in you, but they're not telling you, that wouldn't surprise you if you did hear them. And here are things that might surprise you. And I think for this is a bridge about what the Duke of Shadows is talking about. The first thing I would say right out from the bat is that most people around you really like you. Like, you are very well liked, and I think a lot of people feel very connected to you. And I think because of that, Pile 2, a lot of people are a little bit worried for you. Not necessarily, that they don't believe in you or anything like that, but I think that they want to see you be a little bit more selfish rather than selfless. Because I think that they can see that you're only seeing part of a picture. This is what it seems to be, that is very focused on others and not so much on what you would want to create for yourself. But I think that they feel, and this is the people closest to you, I would say, that there is something that's meant to be born in you for you to have the sort of life that you would want, and that you kind of need to kind of back off a little bit and allow that to develop. Because the Duke of Shadows, I think this is this reading in particular, because of this, is very time specific. I think when you come to this is right. It may not be, there'll be elements of this that are true across the board, but I think this is really picking up a kind of urgent thing that people are seeing, but they're not saying to you. The Duke of Shadows is where things are not clear, where there's only a partial perspective, where you have to wait and have patience and let something grow to see really what it's going to be. And so I think that there is a sense here that something's wanting to be born, something's new is coming into your field, and people around you see it, but they're not telling you. I think because of the role that you tend to have with them, and that wouldn't surprise you, and it is true of what they see in you, and then this is what they want for you that would surprise you. So what they see in you that they're not telling you, but you wouldn't be surprised. Firstly, they see you as someone who has really strong philosophy, really strong ethics, really strong knowledge. You expand those around you. You're very spiritual, you're very learned, all of those sort of things, and you are connected to your soul family, and you put your soul family first. So I think most people that are close to you are part of your soul family, or you would certainly be very well aware of which ones were. And this goes back lifetimes, because sepia here, nostalgia, reminiscence, reverie, you are very, very connected to that. That matters to you maybe more than anything. And people genuinely feel that they are part of that. And genuinely, I think that you connect them to that, and that you're a spiritual guide in that in some way, or an academic guide in it. A ninth house can be spiritual, philosophical, it can be academic. It could also be that they see you as someone who travels, because ninth house is around that, connecting to, ancestral paths. It could be literally traveling, it could be shamanic journey, it could be any of those things, but there's a really strong connection. And they're not talking to you about the fact that they see that, but they do see that. And I think they think that's really lovely. I think they think you're incredibly other person centered. It's a belief structure of yours, and it's almost got a kind of Arthurian quest feeling about it, with the sepia, with the nostalgia, reminiscence. I think there's a sort of a sense of you think there's almost like a blissful state that was maybe the soul family before being in the earth and all that kind of thing. So there's something in how you talk and how you connect with others, and people really see that. They see you as a kind of a leader on that level. But what they also think is that you overextend yourself, and you probably don't know this. They think you need to have a bit of a rest, because they think with brown here, which is about seeding things, the earth, the material things, and with Taurus, that you deserve more than you have at the moment in your life. Like it's almost like you're a little bit ascetic, you're a little bit kind of not self-sacrificial in a major way, but you're so focused on other people that you're not creating the world. And they think that you could create something beautiful for yourself and others, but you need to kind of rest a bit. You're in a hurry. They do think you're in a hurry, and they feel like that you could be rushing towards something before you really know what you want to plant, before you really know what you want to create. And they're probably not saying it to you because you are such a leader within this group. But I think it's a very genuine sense of wanting you to kind of slow down and give a little bit of attention to yourself. So whether you're literally doing a job that is, like a teacher, a spiritual guide or something like that, or whether it's a natural part of you, you kind of get it. You can kind of make all these connections. People follow you and they enjoy that. But it's almost like there's you trigger a little bit of guilt in them, and they feel like, you need to also focus on yourself. And there are things that you could do. Some of them may literally think you could take this energy and create a business, but they think you need to take some time out to work that out. They think that it's just a perspective thing. I feel now with this card, you see like one eye is shown and the other's in the shadows. I think the eye that's shown is very focused on everything that is around other people. I think they want you to bring a focus on yourself out as well, which is really interesting. So I think it's a good energy. I was hoping that Spirit would do that, so kind of in the intent, but also to sort of show what you need to know. And I do think there is a kind of a need to know here. I think that people are not necessarily going to say this to you because that's the thing of this particular reading, but there is something where they feel that you should be building something for yourself as well. So let's look into it a little bit more with the tarot. So let's ask, what would you agree with of what they see that they're not telling you? If they did suddenly sit down, and tell you about this, what would you agree with? Two of Pentacles reversed. Temperance. Nine of Cups. Four of Swords. Ten of Pentacles. Okay, you would actually agree with them that you need a rest. In fact, if you rested, you're letting them down. If you knew grow beautifully and create a legacy, but you're kind of so focused on the spiritual temperance sort of energy, the sort of like, and the wish, the good feeling that is taking you away from the material. You would also agree you probably need to take a rest and get a different perspective, definitely. So it's not that you would disagree with them. I just think that you don't realize how much people care about you and how much they want you to get something as well. I don't think there's no sense in this that you are feeling resentful or you're thinking that people are just using you. I just think that you take your sense of honor and belief in your soul family so seriously that you do tend to not create all the things you could in the material world. And I think you would agree if you knew, yeah, you know what, you do need to rest a bit. Eight of Wands, Queen of Swords, the Star, Eight of Swords, Nine of Swords. Okay. One of the things that might surprise you, and this is going back to the ninth house, which feels very academic, very philosophical, is that, if they were put on a lie detector test, and this all comes from caring, these people care about you, they would think you live far too much in your head. And, I relate to this, I do. People tell me that all the time. For whatever reason, they're not telling you. I think because there's so much they get from it, and they really don't want to kind of cramp your style. But they do think that you are very much, and that you worry, you get yourself caught up in worrying. And you feel like you have to hold yourself in incredible strict regulation. Like, I think they think on some levels with this soul family and all that kind of thing that you put too much upon yourself. To do the right thing. I just suddenly had a flash of in Pride and Prejudice in the BBC series when Darcy is going after finding Wickham, and he's talking to the relatives of Elizabeth, and he says, this is my fault, it's all my fault. The one of the relatives says, I think you take too much upon yourself. I think they think that a bit. They're not going to say it to you because they respect the hell out of you, but I do think that they think that, and this could surprise you when you realize how much, because this is really coming from your heart, but you're expressing it in a very, this is philosophically the way, and I think they think you tie yourself up. They think that you deserve your star as well, and that you deserve some freedom. They also think it's interesting. There's something about travel again. There's something about how you travel, whether it's internally or externally, that would help unlock what this is if you focused on that. Like, this could literally be for some, this is very specific, but it could be for some, you're kind of so focused on your family, your friends and everything that you're limiting your own potential to travel and explore, and therefore limiting this. And they would like you to kind of like let up on yourself a bit. So that's interesting. So let's ask why it is they're not saying this to you. We'll just pull 3 tarot cards for that. The 9 of Pentacles, the 6 of Wands, the Knight of Wands. Okay. They see you as very independent. Like, I think there's something in this where they think, or it's not so much that they see you as independent, because I actually think they see you as so tied up with this that you're not being the independent that you could be. But I think that they see you as having a certain judgment about independence, and that an independent sort of material thing is not the legacy that you want. So I think that they aren't saying it because they don't want to offend your kind of ethics, but they also see you as very strong. It's hard for them to say it. They really look up to you with the 6 of Wands here. They really recognize what you bring to it. And they also think you're going to sort it out, actually. I think they want you to have a bit of a rest and get out of your head a bit, but ultimately they see you as the leader. You're the one who sort of like moves forward. You're the one who's bringing recognition to the soul family, all that kind of thing. So there's something in that. Also, I think that it's almost as though with the independence card here too, that they don't want to add to the burden in a way, because it's connecting with the Queen of Swords here. It's like even having the conversation, I think they worry that takes you even more into your head because it's the way that you respond to things. So that's interesting. But they really care about you. This is not bad. So let's have a look. We're going to use the 2 Penny Oracle, which is based on phrenology, which was a sort of ancient divination and personality characteristic system, which looked at the bumps on your head. But basically this deck has the different sorts of personality characteristics. So what we're looking at here, we're going to draw 3 cards, and we're going to look at things that are personality aspects also that they see that they may or may not see, and look at both what is positive and what could also be tricky, depending upon your relationship or depending upon what's happening in your life, to see what else we can get for you. So firstly, we have olfaction. Okay, so that's interesting. This is kind of like, oh, okay. So there is a bit with this, and this might be the independence thing as well too. This might be why this is the interesting card, to try and really work out how this works. I think that there is sometimes with this where they feel that you're so caring about everything, and as I say, overall they think this is fine, but sometimes it feels like you're in everybody else's business rather than your own. And I'm not meaning that in a bad way. I don't actually think they feel it's bad, but be aware that this sort of like almost way that you particularly intellectually interrogate things and you take people into that energy, it can move from sleuthing, like of really trying to work it out, into people feeling like you're in their business or whatever. So I think that there's sort of something where overall this energy is just that they really admire you. They think that you're very other person centered, but they want you to also have something. But if this got into a difficult situation, they may feel that almost that you're avoiding your own journey by focusing on theirs. So that's something worth knowing. Then we also have sight. So they think that you see things very, very clearly. But again, I think if you got into this point where you won't look at yourself, they do think you blind yourself a little bit, or you disregard your own self. Your sight, yeah, it's like, as I say, it's like one-eyed here, but it's all about other people. They do think you're incredibly visionary about that, but they think that you're missing one thing. And it gets back to that energy with the Duke, which is that, there are things you can't see yet. So I think that they're hoping that you're aware of that so that you don't sort of give yourself too hard a time. And calculation. It says, oh, okay, all right. This is all the swords energy. So, okay, so these people really love you, really admire you. They see you as part of their soul family, and they really think that you're other person-centered, but you're not selfish enough. So all of that's the case, but they also, your mind scares what's out of them. They are really, they know that you see very clearly when you do look. I think they just want you to put the same kind of thing on your own life because you're doing it just with them. And it's not, I don't think that they feel like it's done in a way that's bad or a way that's nosy. As I said, it could go that way if you weren't careful, but it's not. I don't think it's there. But they really feel that your mind is so focused that that, there is almost an underpinning thing that the care and everything you're bringing, and almost that academic field, is also an assessment all the time. So I think this is just picking up the shadow side of what is really actually a very beautiful energy, but I think it is saying that there might be two motives for why they want you to focus on your life. One is that they genuinely care, and I think that's the main one. But even with that, I think sometimes your laser-like focus and understanding and vision about other people is a little bit uncomfortable. So I think you just need to be aware of that. So let's see what your spirit team want to say for each of those things. So for this energy where they may feel sometimes like you're a little bit too interested in them, or that there's a risk of that. I'm not actually feeling at the moment like that's the dominant thing going on. I think that Spirit's just saying that if you don't focus your own stuff and make sure that's in balance, then it could head in this direction. Because it might be your own way of avoiding, what is your life. But you shouldn't be doing that. You deserve to have the good life and to be able to build something for yourself. But let's see what Spirit says about this sort of sleuthing energy. To conform is to die inside. Be brave and be yourself. So I think this is about, don't forget yourself in this. In fact, there could be a little bit where you feel you have to really align with your soul family, and there's something you can't bring into being unless you do that. And again, this is why you can't see all of it, and why they may feel like, don't just focus on us, be yourself, because you're very inspirational for people. Around the vision, where are you focusing? What is your spirit team wanting to say? Live playfully and with a light heart. Listen to the voice of your inner child. Yeah, have a bit of fun, take a bit of time out, enjoy yourself, work out what you want. Your vision's quite earnest, I think. Very, very intellectual and very earnest. And I'm be the last person to criticize that, because I can really relate to this energy. But I think, people want you to have fun as well, They want you to benefit. They benefit a lot from being around you, I think. And then the calculation side, a light-filled angel is at your side. It watches over you at every dark doorway. Okay, I think that there is guidance energy around to make sure it doesn't tilt into that thing. And you are being guided, when things are not clear. But maybe, it's interesting, connect in. You're getting, purple sort of energy here, kind of like crown chakra, purple and white. Connect into your spiritual side rather than your mind, because I think energy and advice is trying to come through for you. Okay, let's get you a couple of pieces of either astrological or numerological advice. Four, okay. So 4 to me is that foundations are there. So I think that is saying that whatever you're meant to do, you are building the foundations, and you definitely have done the foundations around your soul family. I think it's also saying overall your soul family is very strong foundation, but it is potentially a bit stuck. And I think this is what people wouldn't say to you, but what they're saying is that you need to focus a bit. You need to get the focus in balance, because then you can grow and build, which will eventually then help the soul family as well. And mutable. Yeah, you need to be just a little bit more flexible. You're very, very focused, but you need to be a bit more flexible about what you focus on so that you can get the best out of it. Okay, so last but not least, we're just going to draw an archetype card, which is meant to be kind of maybe an energy or a way or an archetype to adopt that will best deal with these sort of energies, best align with what your close people, and I think the people here that we're talking about are close to you and do really care about you, how you best bring all that energy in and use this knowledge now that you have about how people are seeing you but possibly not telling you. The Pilgrim. Okay, there's a lot about journeying here. You have the Knight of Wands. I think people want you to go on a journey to your own world, to your own outcome. There's a lot about journeying with the 9th house, internal and external journeying. I think that they see you as a leader, a visionary and all this sort of thing, but you need to find your own thing as well. This is not that you're not part of the soul family. You absolutely are. You're a leader within the soul family, but they feel, I think, that they will also benefit from this, because you're going to bring something in materially if you start to focus on yourself. If you start to take the shadow away from that so that you get your vision aligned to that, there is actually a cause. There is a vision quest, something like that you're meant to go on, and you're meant to travel in one form or another. It can be internal, external, but you're meant to do that, and you won't do it until you start to focus on yourself. And once you start focusing on yourself, any doubts that you have are going to lift, because they have absolute faith in the fact that your vision and your acuity, once you start focusing, it's going to be perfect. So go on a journey within or externally or both, pile 2, and do what you need to do and take some time out from looking after everybody else. I think that's the main message from the reading. I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with Tiger Angel. These are cards around what people aren't telling you but wouldn't surprise you. You'd think, oh yeah, if you heard about it. These are what they're not telling you that might surprise you. And there's actually quite a connection between the two. I think we're just talking about a matter of degree. The thing that's interesting, Tiger Angel as an overarching sense, I feel as though this is where you are needing to have invisible influence in difficult situations. There's a lot about competition and politics and power and the powers of the world with these cards. So I think that if you come to the right reading, you're someone who people see in you the capacity to influence from behind the scenes and with a very open heart situations that are maybe conflict based or difficult in some way. And maybe sometimes that you are trying to work out the best way to do that, because you're not, so it could be sort of someone who's more influential within a team at a workplace rather than being the manager. Or if you're a manager, you're doing it through influence rather than through directing people in some way. If it's not in a workplace, if it's around love, it could be that you are in a very material sort of situation around love for some reason. You're trying to influence it and open the heart. You could be involved with someone who's incredibly focused on their work or on power in some way, and you're being a heart influence on them. But whatever it is, this is a little bit invisible. It's very gentle. So people definitely think that you have an influence, but it's not obvious. And as I say, there's something with Mars in the 10th house, which is playing out either around career or your kind of personal brand in the world, the powers in the world, that kind of thing. What wouldn't surprise you if people told you is that they see you as someone who is able to grow, build, inspire, all of those sort of things. With Forest here, this is all about elemental magic, that there is a magic to you to bring about growth, to bring about, the energy to bring things forward. So you definitely are seen by people as someone who brings things into being, who grows them, who has the patience and the magic to do that, and you have this ambition around this. So there is something that you are doing or wanting to do to make something grow, a relationship grow, a career grow, a creative project grow. You may be very, very connected to environmental sort of issues and very, very able to go out and battle on that issue if that's something that inspires you, or anything really. You can go into battle for what you want to grow and what you want to protect, and there is a magic to that, and you wouldn't be surprised that people see that, even though you're not necessarily doing it stridently. Like say you were an environmental activist, you're not someone who's sort of like going to some sort of like location that's a seat of power and screaming through a bullhorn about it. You're doing it through how to make things grow, how to put energy and so forth into the positive rather than railing against the negative. So you wouldn't be surprised about that if people told you, but they're not necessarily telling you, they're sort of saying it. I do think you are in a conflict-based environment or conflict-based relationships or something like that, or very competitive. So I think part of the reason that people aren't saying it is there is some competition, not necessarily from those who see you as someone who grows, but there might be some that want that, and they're in competition with you. And that might not surprise you either. Particularly as over here, what would surprise you? This is about how you're seen in the world, your career, all of those sort of things. People see you as not necessarily being frozen with winter here, but they don't see, you wouldn't be surprised if people saw you as very active, but in actual fact, there's quite a few people who see you as you've almost stopped for some reason. And it's interesting because we've got moss here, which is about sort of growth again. So it's about growth, but it's a different type of growth. This is a growth. I kind of thought when I saw this, I thought, that statement that moss doesn't grow on a rolling stone. So there's almost as though they see you as having slowed something down to allow something to grow. You think that people see you as just always moving forward, or you would think that was the most thing. They do think that you're someone who normally does, but right at the moment, for some reason, they're seeing you as having slowed down or stopped. So I don't know. Like on one level, I think some see the invisible influence. Others are a bit bemused by it. I think that for the most part, people have seen you as someone very active around things, but there's something going on at the moment that has to do with how you're seen in the world. And it's like they think that you kind of stopped to allow something to grow. And that might surprise you, because I think you think you're always acting, but it's not acting as in sort of being insincere, but action. You know, you're always in action. But people think something stopped, something slowed down for some reason. They're not telling you. It could be external factors. They could be aware of something that's going to stop you, but this feels more like you're shifting gears. People are seeing you shifting gears. Now, it could be, I'm getting for some of you, that you've always been very active around the cause, and now you're moving up into a position of leadership, and now you've got to kind of slow down and do it differently. So it could be just that. But there's something here that's a bit invisible. And I think you see yourself as someone who people would always think was ambitious, moving forward, growing, bringing new things in. But you would be surprised how people are actually watching you and thinking something has kind of almost gone into hibernation. So if you're moving more into an invisible influence, they may not fully understand that. They may be misinterpreting it as you having withdrawn from the battle, but that's not the case. Okay, very complicated actually. This one, it's interesting. So let's see what tarot can tell us. So firstly, we're going to ask, what would you agree with about what people are seeing? In either case, what would you agree with and say, yeah, that's true? Five of Wands. Judgment reversed. Ace of Cups. Nine of Swords. King of Wands. Okay. You would agree that you've slowed things down, actually. You might be surprised that people think it and see it. I think you would be thinking they normally see you as just moving forward. But if you knew that somebody actually had seen there was a kind of method to all this, you might be surprised about it, but you would agree. You would say, yes, there's conflict around at the moment that I have to slow a decision down for some reason. You're coming from the heart, so it's still a very good, positive thing, and you'd agree with anybody who said this is coming from the heart, but they can see, and you would agree, that you're a bit anxious about something. You know what your end goal is, like Mars, the King of Wands, you know what your end goal is, but you're not sure until you work out what the cause of the conflict is. Now, I'm getting, like, a lot of this looks like career, but if it's not, it's about a relationship, and I do think for some it is, because I'm getting pulled towards that. Then there's something very public potentially in one way or another about the relationship. Now, this could be just, you've started sort of going out and you're letting your families know, right up to being a power couple that's seen on the world stage in some way. But there's something about that, I think, and I think that there's some conflict and worry you have about that connecting with, the other party. That's what it feels like. And they're like you, they're very, but they're more dramatic, I think. You're a little bit more subtle, but they're quite dramatic. But there's something like that, and there's a lot of conflict around it. And you're a little bit concerned, and you would agree, yes, you're not answering the call yet till you're more sure about what is this going to grow into. So whether it's career or love, there's something like that going on. You have slowed down, and you would agree if they said it to you. So let's see what would surprise you. Beyond maybe being surprised that some actually saw the slowing down, what would surprise you if people talked about what they were seeing? Three of Pentacles reversed, the Hermit reversed, Ten of Swords, the Lovers. Yeah, there's some of you, this is about a love relationship, or it's connected to a love relationship. The Four of Pentacles reversed. Okay. What would surprise you is that I think people see a issue a little bit more than you do. Now, that doesn't mean they're right. But it would surprise you how much people wonder if whatever this issue is that you've slowed down, how it might, undermine things that you've already achieved. Like at a very basic level, some might be thinking, you were on the trajectory and growing and you could see it, and suddenly you seem to have stopped, and they wonder whether you're actually kind of going to abandon something. And I don't think you're going to abandon it, but I think others are thinking there's something in this, something going on. This is where the invisible influence, it's like you have to go with the flow, is threatening the foundation of something, whatever this conflict is. It's not really as major as they think, and I think you know that, but it's still there. And in some cases, if this isn't like a love partner, it could be that it's about ego battles. They can see that there's some shifting around the powers that be almost. For some of you, there is love associated with this. Otherwise, it's just relationship. And it might surprise you how much people are aware of that. And it's interesting with this particular deck with the lovers, it's like somebody sort of seeing somebody through a mirror. So I feel like there could be something that people are seeing around either a relationship or the relationship patterns here that they feel is kind of reflective of something in you and your patterns anyway. That might surprise you. And it might ultimately relieve some of the worry, but it might surprise you. They definitely think being in the heart is what gets past the drama, but they think you're going to have to be more. You're going to have to be more in this Mars energy and not in the gentle hidden. You need to make a decision and come out about what you believe or what you're going to back or what you want to do. I think they worry that this slowing down to that point, it's almost like they think moss isn't the thing that you want to grow. It's more you want to grow this, and there's something around this conflict and the delay that they think could limit what you could get, and they want to sort of see more clearly what you actually would want to get out of something or what your view is. So let's ask why they're not telling you, because this is a bit of a complex one. I think this has a lot to do with power and ego and the environment that you're in. Ace of Pentacles reversed. The Hierophant. Queen of Swords reversed. I'm getting 3 different reasons here, and it might apply to 3 different people or groups of people, because I do think this is quite complex. I think for some, they're not saying anything because they ultimately have something they want to see. So it's actually in their interest in a way not to say anything. They can see you slowing that down. They can see you almost taking stock and not making a decision. There are some people around you, because this is a competitive environment you're in one form or another, that see an advantage in you not going forward because they have something different they want to bring into being. There are some that have a very strong idea about what is the right way of doing things. So they either agree with what you're doing, even if it slows it down, and they think, well, that's, what you have to do, or they are thinking, like they're righteous and they're just, if they don't agree, they're just not going to tell you. And then there's some that are naturally quite critical people. They may not even approve of certain relationships, connections, or whatever around this. What I would say is that all of this, in a way, is suggesting that you're probably doing the right thing and slowing down and reconsidering, because there's just a lot of complexity around this environment. Area. This could also be, some look at this very much almost as a regulatory thing. So this could be in a career situation. It could have been you're going full steam ahead on something and you thought that was what most people were seeing, even if they weren't talking about it. And maybe you're not getting the information that you really need to get, because is this a going concern? So some of them might be just like waiting to see. There's something like that. If it's a relationship, then at least one party wants to see something very traditional around this. Others may not be sure if it's the right thing. So I just sort of feel like this is complex. I feel like there's a lot of, whether it's in career or love or whatever it is, there's a lot of different vested interests in this, and some of them are on your side and some aren't, but they're not talking because it's just the environment. So let's see if we can get a little bit more information for you. We use the 2-penny oracle, which is based on phrenology, so it has different personality characteristics. And what we're looking for here are 3 other personality characteristics that people see in you that they're not talking about, both in their positive and also in their challenging manifestations, that have a bearing on this way that people are seeing you and what they're not telling you at the moment. So firstly, individuality. Okay. So this is interesting with the Hierophant. There are some that like everything to be in accordance with, what they believe and what everybody does, this is the way we do things around here type way that you talk about work culture. Your individuality is part of your strength and your growth, but it also means you have to protect yourself and freeze and watch and learn and so forth. Observation is very important. It's really important actually not to be incurious, to just keep charging ahead. So I think your individuality is a strength for you here. But it could be also what are making people kind of like not tell you. Because as I say, I think it's highly competitive. Then we have tune, resonance. So this whole process might be how you tune in and work out the next step and what you really want to grow. And I think some would see that and know that you're working on that level. And again, it's like some are going to be not saying anything because they think it's fine what you're doing. Others are not going to be saying it because they're in competition with you. This is, of all the readings, the one that seems to have the difficult people around it that you need to be aware of. Really important to take some time out and also to look where there's dissonance. Look where people aren't on the same page. And calculation, assessment, and so forth. So yeah, you need to assess the situation. I think some are saying you're just strategic. You're doing what's strategic, and some would be very happy that you're doing it, and some would be a bit threatened by that. But either way, the people who are happy about it just think you know what you're doing. The people who are threatened don't want to add to what you actually know. So it's really important to be aware of that, and also to be important. It's important to not use your own powers of calculation to become like the Queen of Swords reversed here and be a bit manipulative. It's like you've got to kind of have a moral underpinning in this environment because it's complex. So let's see what your spirit team have to say about each of these qualities and how you could best use them. So for individuality, it is time for a change. Do not wait or put off decisions any longer. So I think it is saying you're getting to the point you can't freeze it anymore. And you've got to go back to what's the core thing for you in this complex environment. And it's interesting, it's blue again. It's like unfreezing. I also think with the Queen of Swords being that kind of icy blue, I think you have to not criticize yourself too much because the critical people around could take advantage of that. With being in tune, you cast a spell with your existence. Magic flows brightly and radiantly within you. So remember, you are in tune. You are able to grow. You are able to do this in either way. Because remember, we had Moss here. Growth was still occurring, even if it was a bit quieter and a little bit more under the scenes. And you do know how to manifest in the world. So understand your magic. Don't let the sort of naysayers or the competition take you from your path. And then how best to use your characteristics of calculation and an assessment. Listen to the internal song of your soul. Tune into it and learn to trust it. This is going back to tuning in. So this is saying that, in fact, you may feel a lot of this is in your mind, but it's more in kind of your heart and in tuning in, which is very much this energy, this sort of very quiet, gentle energy. Getting that sense of resonance, finding that sense of resonance. Finding those that are responding well to the magic that you bring, that will help you do it. If you feel that's out of tune and the dissonance is there, that's all you need. You don't actually need to sort of interrogate it any further. That will help speed up and let you know what to do next. Okay, so let's also get you a couple of cards of either astrology or numerology. Saturn. Okay, so Saturn to me, it is slowing down. It is an incubation period. It is understanding this is in for the long haul. There's a sense here of bringing something into being, and it's the ultimate. Saturn is the ultimate planet in the end for growth because it is things over time. But I think it's just understanding that this is a long haul thing that you're dealing with, and how people are responding to you, whether in competition or in support. You have to look at it with that very long range perspective. There's also could be karmic sort of connections around you at the moment that are playing out in this as well. And 33, you are a master at what you do. This is why you can do it. This is the magic that you have. Something to do with being in tune, resonance, music or whatever, but you are a master at it, so don't doubt that. People, if they're responding negatively to this, I think it's just that they're in competition with you. But remember, you have the mastery. Don't doubt yourself. I just think you would be surprised how those who are paying a lot of attention, either because they care about you or because they're in competition with you, have seen you slow down. So you've got to really think about that. how are you using time and the passage of time to master this situation? Okay, so to finish off, I'm just going to draw an archetype card. So this archetype card is meant to pick up, again, sort of personal aspects about you that you could best embody or think about in terms of assimilating this knowledge about how people are seeing you but not telling you. The warrior, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like, of all the readings, all the other readings, I have to say, have been much more kind of supportive and caring. And this is not to say that everybody around you isn't. I just think that you've come to a reading like this because there's a conflict situation or something that you need to influence in some way or other, and you are meant to embody your own strength and believe in yourself and understand how in tune and magical you can be in that, because people are watching you very closely. Now, what I feel drawn to say is if you come here and you go, yeah, that's fine, and you want to also see, what's the softer side of things, then maybe go and look at one of the other readings as well. Because I feel like this is a very specific situation, but it's not indicative of how everybody sees you. It's just the people that are important to this situation at the moment. And there are those that are in your camp, but there are also those, and you would fight for them, but equally there are others who are in battle with you, and you need to take on that stance. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 3. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.